Welcome to Books and Things with Tom, and that's me. And it's very cold out there today, and it's we had a little snow already, and I'm not too sure I like it, but I guess we'll have to put up with it until March or April. Anyway, today's guest is Susanne. Is it Susanne?
Susanne.
Susanne Davis, and she's written a wonderful book called The Appointed Hour, and we're going to talk about that appointed hour. And it's 177 pages of very interesting information. Welcome, Susanne.
Thank you, Tom. It's so nice to be here.
And what is The Appointed Hour?
The Appointed Hour, the phrase comes from a Benedictine prayer that led us on our journey not pass by our appointed hour. So the thought being that we are all here with a purpose, whatever that is, and that we live our days fulfilling it.
And you know, I agree with that totally, because we do all have a purpose for being here, and I think that's, if I can say what God had in mind, you're here for something and then you're going to go. Mm-hmm. So you try not to accomplish the job too soon.
I didn't never think about it this way, but
I got a lot
I'll
more
make
to
a
do.
note.
But it's true, you're here for a reason. My son was here till he was 21 years old, and I guess whatever he was here for, he accomplished. And we like to not think people can do that in such a small amount of time. Now, you've written 12 different stories.
Yeah.
And like I said, I read the first one. You have a knack for writing.
Thank you, Tom.
And you're also an instructor.
Yes.
Wow. Where are you teaching?
I teach at Trinity and at UConn. I teach creative writing mostly, so it's very fun.
All right.
And it really feeds my own work. Yeah.
Well, we may have to have you down as a guest speaker for Kappa.
Oh, I would love to do that.
Good.
I would love
to. We'll get you down there then.
All right.
And because we're always trying to learn how to write.
Yeah.
And I think I've found out about writers that most of them don't like to answer emails.
I try to answer my emails, so I promise that if you email me,
I send out email notices.
Yeah.
And maybe 10 will reply, and I got 60 on the list.
Writers can be very unruly, as you know. But
So what made you write the book?
Well, there are 12 stories, and I started writing the stories individually, and then I grew up on a farm. I come from 6 generations of dairy farmers. They're notorious storytellers. So they're very primary to my heart. They're stories of people on the land and in rural America, very close to the things that mean something to me. So as I started writing the stories over a period of time, because it was more than 10 years that the stories started to come together, that at first I was just writing individual stories, the first one being the voice of the ancestor on this land, telling her story of her time on the land. And then it moved forward to the contemporary people on this same area of land. And then as the stories started to accumulate, I began to see that they had a larger story that they wanted to tell. And so as the collection continues, you see them show up in each other's stories. And
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
I think sometimes, I get so many different people on the show.
Yeah.
They write about everything. I can't even begin to think of writing a drama.
No?
I don't know where to start.
Well, life is dramatic, isn't it?
Yeah, I suppose I could do my own life. But, like short stories I can do.
Yeah.
And, but this is very well done.
Thank you.
And what do you do besides write?
Well, I teach at UConn and at Trinity. Those things keep me really busy.
I'll bet.
And I am just I have a couple of novels. My agent has one that's now out circulating,
Okay.
and one that I've finished revising to send to her. So both of them also set in the rural part of eastern Connecticut.
Yeah.
So those stories seem to keep coming back to me in one way or another.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's neat.
Yeah.
I think writers are very interesting people. Of course, some you can't believe because they write fiction.
Exactly. Well, I think people are interesting.
They are interesting.
Yeah.
I love people.
Yeah.
That's the one thing I do right is get along with people, I think. And if you don't like me, don't say anything. we try to get interesting people on the show, and I've had some tremendously interesting people, and most of the authors. And your short stories have been published in American Short Fiction, Notre Dame Review. I'm trying to read this without my glasses on. I shouldn't do that. I can't see. Notre Dame Review, St. Petersburg Review, Carb, and numerous other journals. Mm-hmm. Wow. So you've been writing for a while.
I have been writing for a while. I started writing when I was 6.
Really?
Yeah. I knew I wanted to be a writer my whole life.
I guess.
I did.
6 years old, you don't even know what a pencil is.
I know. Well, I started writing poetry because it was easier to just rhyme and put a few words on a
Oh, yeah?
page. I was not a very good poet, but, it gave me this love for language so
Yeah.
that as I got older and could, use language better, stories started to come
Yeah.
to me,
Huh.
thankfully.
6, wow.
Yeah.
So when did you settle down and actually start writing?
Well, when I was in college, I was writing a lot, but it was only after I got out of college that I missed the writing that I had been doing in college and realized that if I wanted to write, I was going to have to make the commitment to it myself.
Yeah.
And I was living in Boston at the time, and I worked as the PR person at Harvard Law School. And I was doing so I was the news person, and I was doing news things. And one day my boss called me into her office and said, "What is your dream?" And I said, "Well, I love my job. I have a job writing, but my dream really is to write fiction." So she gave me a 5-week leave of absence and a computer.
Wow.
And told me to go write fiction.
Huh.
I know. She was
That
the
is
most
cool.
amazing, angel in my life, and not the only one, but a very significant one.
Yeah.
So I went away for a couple weeks to a conference at Bennington, where the whole focus was to be writing for 2 weeks and to be in a workshop with other people and have someone read the work. And I would literally, from the time I got up in the morning till the time I went to bed at night, be writing.
Yeah.
And at the end of 2 weeks, I was so in love with writing. I knew that I just was going to spend the rest of my life that way. So those things that I wrote became the submissions for graduate school, and that just sort of unfolded from there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I never had an inkling to be a writer.
But
Not
you
even-
have written.
Yeah. When my son died, I sat down and I wanted, because I knew his girlfriend was pregnant, so I wanted to write down everything about my son to pass on to the grandson. And the only thing that came out was my misery. And it was how tough things were, and how I could hardly put one foot in front of the other one, and just, it was just a bad time. It took me 10 years to write the book.
Yeah.
And every 3 years, I'd sit down and write some more. And then in the 10th year, I finally got it. And then people liked the way I wrote, and I thought, let me try another book.
Yeah.
So I wrote about Mystic and my memories of the town as growing up.
I love Mystic.
Yeah, and it's cool. This is Mystic in the 1950s, and it's just, I like writing. And I do a lot of writing on Facebook and
Yeah.
little stories and whatnot.
Yeah.
But but I think writing is just so expressive. You can say so much, and even the shy person can say what's in his heart or her heart and get it out there.
Yeah, I think that's the most powerful writing, actually.
Yeah.
When the writing flows from a place that just comes from this authentic depth and moves the heart.
Yeah.
And, when it can move your heart. Yeah.
And then I had one lady came up and she says, I went through your book, you have run-on sentences. And I said, your point?
Exactly.
Well, she mocked up my book.
Oh.
And this, that. And I looked at it. She said, you're not going to do anything about it, are you? I said, no.
Oh.
That book is not me. The book that you just mocked up was me.
Yeah.
And so I found out you don't let teachers check your book.
Ouch.
It's just...
It's very vulnerable once, a book is out there and you put your heart on the page, and now it has its own life, and,
Exactly.
and how people take it is...
I had somebody else check it for punctuation.
Yeah.
I said, do not change a word.
Yeah.
She did it. It's all in punctuation, corrected it. That's fine.
Yeah.
Don't tell me how to write.
Yeah.
Because I've had too many people sit down and read it and say, I felt as though you were talking to me.
Yeah.
And that's what I want to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I probably should take a course.
Well, I'm not the one to say that, Tom. We all find our way.
I don't want to get too smart, though. I mean, I probably wouldn't write anymore. So you're living in Glastonbury.
Yes.
And you were born in Iowa or in Connecticut?
No, born in Connecticut.
Oh, born in Connecticut.
I come from 6 generations of dairy farmers.
Okay.
My family's farm is in Norwich. I grew up close by there, first in Preston, and then my dad and my brother have a dairy farm in Sterling. And yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
How'd you get to Idaho?
Iowa.
Well, your grandmother kept saying Idaho.
No, it was my mother
Oh, your
who
mother.
for a while
That's right, your mother kept
thought I
saying
was,
Idaho.
yeah.
That was part 2.
So after I took that conference and wrote for those 2 weeks, as I mentioned,
Yeah.
I submitted those stories to different graduate programs, and the University of Iowa has a really great graduate program, and I got accepted there, and yeah, and that's
you
what
are in
sent
Iowa.
me off to Iowa. And then I came back to Connecticut.
I mean, who goes to Iowa?
The Midwest, it was an amazing experience.
Yeah, I bet it was.
Because I was writing about rural people and traveling to a part of the country where so much of the heart is the heartland. So I learned so much by the contrast, because in some ways there were so many similarities, but then there were also differences of
Yeah.
the way people lived on the land there as opposed to the way people lived on the land in New England.
And they probably have more respect for the land than we do.
They have...
Not the farmers. The farmers
Yeah,
here love the land.
I know, exactly. But as the general population, you
there's
mean?
too many businesses.
Perhaps.
And even Mystic has just grown up and blown up, and
Yeah,
just a different town.
yeah. So I would, travel a bit of a distance and through all the cornfields and to get to the actual school each week.
Yeah.
And that's how I ended up in Iowa. But then I came back to Connecticut.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So this is home.
this is home.
Well, I like Connecticut. I don't like what's going on in Connecticut, but I like Connecticut.
Yeah,
And I think it's probably the best weather-wise southeastern Connecticut.
yeah,
We don't get the big storms
It's
that they
true.
do up north.
Yeah.
And maybe someday I'll write about the storms. But I think that was your son you introduced
Yes.
me to. And,
2 boys.
2 boys.
Yes.
Oh, good for you.
Yeah.
Wow. And he lives in Manhattan?
In New York, but not right in
Oh, okay.
Manhattan. In White Plains, he works in New York.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
Uh,
They are cool.
How did you make out at Mark Twain House?
It was really so much fun. The launch was last night. The Connecticut launch was
Okay.
last night at the Mark Twain House, and there were about 50 people there. And so I did a little bit of a reading, and then we talked about how we use stories to make a difference. And it gave me the chance to tell a story of one of my favorite professors in graduate school, Jim McPherson, who had us read Huck Finn, and then talked about how at the end of this novel, when Huck lights out for the territories because he doesn't know how he could possibly live in a society that it doesn't accept his friend Jim, who he's come down the river with, and
Yeah.
he's sort of seen the, for lack of a better word, and truly sort of the racism that existed. He goes off into the territories, but Jim McPherson encouraged us as writers to try with our stories to show what life was like living down the mountain as opposed to, at the end of the stories, going up the mountain and living away from
okay.
society.
Yeah.
So to be then at the Mark Twain House last night to launch the book gave me the chance to sort of honor this very brilliant man and the way he said things that sort of set my soul on fire for, how to write in a way that might illuminate our human existence,
Oh, yeah.
as opposed to simply show the reality of that existence.
Huh.
Yeah, so it was a really fun
That's cool.
event. Yeah,
I find doing book signings, you meet so many wonderful people.
oh yeah,
And they're interesting. Even if they don't buy a book, I don't care.
yeah,
They're very interesting.
yeah,
And you get more stories. And if you could write a story about everything that you learn at a book signing, it's unbelievable.
yeah,
We had my book with my son Todd. Did the Big E, one of the first times we were at the Big E. And this buddy of mine was staying on one side, I was on the other side. He goes, what are you doing? I said, what do you mean? He says, people come over here, you make them cry, you give them a hug, and they give you $20. He said, well, that's me. But it would be people that had lost somebody, they wanted the book,
yeah,
and I always gave them a hug,
yeah,
because I think that's the best thing.
yeah,
And of course, they paid me for the book. And he's going, I don't know what you got going on, but you're making money.
yeah. Well, obviously you have a way of connecting to their hearts, and that's
Yeah.
the thing, I guess, that
Yeah.
we all hope that our stories do.
Well, I think in my case, we attract each other.
Yeah,
I can attract somebody from the other side of the room that's lost a child. They
Yeah.
can walk right over to me and start talking. And because I think that the angels
yeah,
send people in the right direction
yeah,
that will help you.
yeah.
And I totally believe in angels. I
Oh,
think
yeah, me too.
anytime something's going good, the angels have got something to do with it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But I just,
It's powerful.
and you can buy your book, I've got that down here someplace, soon to be Amazon.
Yes. So right now it's available through Cornerstone Press directly, and it's at a couple of local bookstores. We'll be working to get it into, hopefully the one in Mystic
Yeah,
and
Max
other.
Square Books.
Yeah, and it will be on Amazon soon.
Okay.
But Cornerstone Press is the press where the book can be purchased. directly
I know
now.
I've got it written down here someplace. Cornerstone Books is, what is the email? Oh, here it is. Cornerstone.press@uwsp.edu.
Yes, so it's University of Wisconsin, Stevens Point, so it's uwsp.edu. It's a university press.
UWSP, okay, yeah.
Yeah.
So, if you didn't get that, write to me and I'll send you the address.
And I also, on my website, anyone can go to my website and see right on the homepage a link that will take them to Cornerstone Press.
Okay. Yes. There's a whole bunch of stuff on her website. A writer's voice indelible on the page.
Oh, yeah.
I steal this stuff. So, I copied your website.
Oh,
I try to get as much information as I can.
appreciate that.
And she's also got a Gravity Hill book talk by Susanne at the Yukon Co-op.
Right.
Wow. And Susanne talks about character making in fiction on Blog Talk radio show Creativity Matters Now. That's cool. Go on the website, and it's susandavis.com. And you get all this information that I have here, and it'll tell you some more information about how the books that she's written and stuff that she's done. And she's a very interesting lady. You got nice pictures.
The photographer gets credit for that.
Someone who grew up on a dairy farm in Connecticut, still owned and operated by her father and brother. And I always wanted to live on a farm
Really?
until I met Whit Davis and found out how much work it was.
So much work.
And I said, never mind.
Oh, my gosh. I mean, my father hasn't taken any time off. The
Wow.
only time he's had off since he married my mother and had a honeymoon was when his appendix burst.
Oh, wow.
And he didn't stop working. And even once his appendix burst, he was only then when he couldn't get out of bed and someone drove by and heard the cows mooing, did they stop in and see him and take him to the hospital. That was his last vacation.
Oh, I know Whit, well, like I say, he was 92 and 93 when he died, and no vacation.
Yeah.
It's just no time. You can't.
Yeah.
And especially a small farm, because you have nobody to, those plants will die if you don't take care of them.
Yeah. You know, I think part of, for me, writing this book and as it came together, seeing the changes that are happening in rural America
Oh, yeah.
and giving voice to characters who are often unseen and unheard from, who really deserve to have a voice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I know this is a little off the subject, but talk about rural America, farms are disappearing.
Well, it's not off the subject at all.
Now it's in India too.
Yes.
And it's a shame that they just, some people are fortunate, they have enough money to just give it to one of the Avalon or somebody,
Yeah.
and it remains free.
Yeah.
But others need the money,
Yeah.
and they, and you never know.
It's it's something that I think about a lot,
Yeah.
and I think that so much of our own opportunity for wholeness is connected to how we take care of the land,
Yeah.
and that how we produce our own food, and some of the movements toward the CSAs and organic farming have gone a long way to helping people become more conscious of where
Yeah.
their food comes from. But it's still a message that we need to get
Well,
out there.
We should listen to the Indians,
Yeah.
because the Indians know what's going on.
Yeah.
And last year I did 5 5 or 6 shows on farmers on the Denison Farmers Market in Mystic. And we were talking about organic, and it's so interesting. They basically do the same thing, but the way they do it is different.
Yeah.
And each one of those people, they don't take vacations either.
Yeah.
And I think it's just sad because they work so hard. I know Whit Davis had broken his leg, and he asked people to help him get up on a tractor.
Yeah.
He doesn't care.
Yeah.
And but that's the life of a
Yeah.
farmer.
Yeah.
And I'm sure if I did, I do the same thing anyway. No matter what it is, if I'm doing something, I'm going to do it.
Well, I think that it's a calling, and that
Yeah.
it's like the one's breath, So I think
Yeah.
that people who are working, at least if I were to speak about my own family
Yeah.
on the land, I can't imagine what else, and I don't know as though they could imagine what else they would possibly do. They love it that
And what's
much.
happening now is that the kids are growing up and saying,
Yeah.
I'm not going to do this.
Yeah.
So when you go, farmers going to be houses, and that's a shame. But money talks.
Well, I like to think that if we become more and more conscious of the power and
Yeah.
the beauty of that life, that we can preserve more of it.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think the Davis farm is preserved through the state of Connecticut,
Yeah.
and the only thing that can be done on there is farming.
Yeah.
You can't build a cottage. You
Yeah.
can't build a little cabin.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Yeah. I mean that, so there are towns in the state that are really good at protecting.
We had about 2 minutes left. Anything else you want to add?
Well, I want to thank you for having me on the show, and I guess the thing I would like to add is that I hope that your listeners will find our talk interesting and buy the book, and that I hope that it will move people to feel something.
Thank you, and it's been a pleasure having you here.
Thank you, Tom. I appreciate it.
Next week we got Santa Claus coming in town. Well, actually coming to SCC TV. Be sure to watch, and you might want to tape it. Let the kids watch. Well, I don't know if you want to. No, he's a good Santa Claus. He's a really good guy. Speaking of Christmas, I've had some great authors, including Susanne, and people of interest on this show. Email me. I'll be happy to send you a list of the books that are available. Books are the gifts that keep on giving, and a lot of times you sit there and say, I got to read that book again.
Yeah.
And pass it on, let somebody else read it. We don't like that. We'd rather buy new books and give you as gifts. Great reading for those cold nights, and we got some of those coming, like tonight. Check YouTube for the past shows. Tonight's show will be on, I believe, Monday night, and so go to Books and Things with Tom on YouTube. Also, check my Facebook page because I put everything on there. I'll put the times and everything for tonight on there. Special thanks to Frank and Frank at SEC TV for helping me host this show for the past 5 years. I can't believe it's been 5 years already. Oh, my Lord.
That's great.
It's, when it's fun, it goes by quick.
Yeah.
And it has been fun, and it's educational. By the way, the TV station runs on donations, so if you like our shows, and there are a bunch of shows on TV now and on our programs, and you can afford a couple bucks, we appreciate it. Thank you for watching, and you should be reading. Cuddle up with a good book, especially on a cold night like tonight, and check this book out. See you next week.
Thank you.
Again, thank you.
Hi, Tom. Thank you.